What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami, the Miami Herald show about the Inter Miami Football Club. I am your host, Andre Fernandez, Deputy Sports Editor, joined once again by our Inter Miami beat writer, Michelle Kaufman. There have been better days for this pod because, oh my goodness, was that bad last night? Watching what happened, we'll dive really deep into this deflating gut punch of a defeat that eliminated Inter Miami from the League's Cup. We'll talk about what happened exactly in this game. How did this collapse happen? Should Tata, have done something different in the second half? Maybe a couple of subs. What happens next for this team? Who's next on the schedule for this team? Is Messi going to be back by then? We'll find out. And of course, the transfer window is about to close on Friday. So, does this team have any deals to make as they try to push now for the MLS Cup, which is what's left at this point for them to contend? But Michelle, let's dive right in. I mean, they're up 2-0. Things are looking okay. They look like maybe they can hang on for another 20, 25 minutes or so and move on to the quarters. But Diego Rossi and company had other ideas. How did this meltdown happen in the final? In 13 minutes, they go 3 goals.
Yeah, I mean, they looked really good. I mean, the first half, Inter Miami, Tata has been saying all along that the Columbus Crew is the best team in MLS. He's been saying that for weeks now, leading up to this game. You wonder, like, is it sandbag? Is it like, just trying to set the stage? Columbus Crew is a very good team. They are the defending MLS champion. They made it to the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. If you compare Inter Miami last year, Miami finished 14th. So they won the league. Miami finished in 14th place last year. CONCACAF Champions Cup, they made it to the final. They beat Monterrey on the way there. Inter Miami lost to Monterrey in the round of 16. So even though Inter Miami has all these stars, one of them is Lionel Messi, who was not playing last night, has not played in 11 games in a row for this team. He has not played since June 1st. So pretty much the entire summer without him, but they were doing well without him. But still, this was a very, very good opponent on the road. Miami definitely was dominating the first half. Their first 2 goals were very pretty. They were playing the way they like to play, beautiful passing, setting up, nice linking up together. They really looked in sync. He went with 5 guys in the back, knowing that they are an attacking team that can attack you from the wings, from the middle, from all different directions. So he went with 5 in the back. He put Noah Allen, had his first start in, I don't know since when. David Martinez was out with a red card suspension. So Noah Allen got to play. And then halftime comes. They look like they're good. They were ahead 1-0 at that point, but they looked very much in command. They then score a second goal. Gomez, beautiful goal from Suarez. Nice setup from Luis Suarez. And they are celebrating like this is it. We're on our way to the quarters. We're about to beat the Columbus Crew at their home field. They're up 2-0 in the 60-plus minute. They basically have to hang on for 25 minutes or so, and that's it. And then, bum, 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 in the span of 2 minutes, they scored 2 goals. They scored 2 goals in 2 minutes. Inter Miami, when they went up 2-0, they went into a more defensive stance. They were basically all behind the midfield line. They were not really pushing at that point. I think they were obviously trying to preserve the lead. They were in the prevent defense like they do in the NFL, like they do in football. They said, hey, we're up 2-0. We're on the road. This is really good. Let's, maintain this. Let's maintain this 2-0 lead. At that point, they stopped attacking quite as much, and they were definitely seemed to be playing in a more defensive stance. Meanwhile, Columbus Crew made 3 changes at halftime because things were clearly not going their way, the way they were playing. So they had made 3 changes at halftime, although Inter Miami still scored after those 3 changes. So it's not like those 3 changes were the miraculous changes that changed everything. But once Miami goes up 2-0, goes into their prevent defense, Columbus just starts attacking, gets more aggressive, gets fired up. And on the counter in particular, Miami, you saw that the defenders, especially Wygant on the outside, Jordi Alba got beat, Noah Allen, they started charging up the sides. Miami was a step slow. Now, that is where the question is, should Tata have made substitutions? At that point, it's 67 minutes into the game when they scored Columbus scored their first goal. And then they scored again in the 69th minute, 2 minutes later. So in that span of 2 minutes, they scored 2 goals. Both of them were ones where Miami's defenders, particularly on the outside, were behind. They were behind on a counter. They were running facing the goal. And these guys just pretty much got past them. And, they're a very good team. If you give them opportunities, they are going to score. The first half, Miami played very good defense and really kept them out of the middle, which is where they like to be, kept, Gucho out of the middle and was trying to force them to the outsides, but defending well on the outside. In that period where they scored their 2 goals in 2 minutes, the wings out on the outside is where they really penetrated Miami's defense and then were able to score. So Tata was asked afterward, should he have done something different tactically? Should he have made substitutions earlier? He made one sub. He said that Gomez was tired, and so he took out Gomez. He put in Julian Gressel in the 67th minute, I believe, is when he came in. But then he waited until the 83rd minute and made 3 subs at that point in the 83rd minute, when at that point they were already down and in big, big trouble. He said point blank that he felt that they were still in control of the game, that other than that period where they were scored upon, he still felt like they had opportunities to score, and they did. They did have some clear chances to score, even when they were down 3-2. Definitely when they were 2-2, they had a chance to go ahead. They had a chance, even at 3-2, to equalize that game and send it to penalty kicks. And he did not feel desperate, is basically what he was saying, that even though in hindsight, everybody's saying he should have made subs earlier, why didn't he make subs? This game is all on Tata. This loss is on Tata. I've seen on social media, a lot of people are blaming the coach. He said, asked point blank, should he have made subs earlier? He said no, that he felt that they still had the right lineup in there. He felt like they had opportunities to score at the end that just didn't go in. And you saw, Luis Suarez had a chance. Gressel had a chance. There was one point where 3 different players were right in front of the goal, and it did not go in. Tata defended himself, defended his decisions, said that they just, but he was extremely disappointed that for as well as they played, he said, we played 65 brilliant minutes. That's how he put it. He said, I really felt like we had 65 brilliant minutes, but the game is 90 minutes, not 65. They did have a collapse. They had a 13-minute collapse right there. And that's it. They're out of the not the World Cup. They're out of the big difference. Forget that I ever said that. Leagues Cup, World Cup. Let's discuss that later, how small of a tournament this really is. This is not the World Cup, but they are out of the Leagues Cup. They have now been in 2 of 3 tournaments this year. They have been bounced in the round of 16 of both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's those breakdowns at the end on the second one, I remember they looked like, not taking anything away from Diego Rossi, but it looked like just a complete fall asleep moment there at the end on that second one. The first one, kind of a header, well placed, did a good job. And then the third one, at that point, everything's spiraling. You're on the road. I don't know. It's concerning because this team is going to be at the top of the standings. They're going to make the MLS playoffs. They'll probably advance a couple rounds, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, when we get close to that MLS Cup, can this team win those high stakes games? Granted, the one silver lining is, of course, no Messi. So you're thinking, all right, they'll have him back by that point. will that be enough of a difference the next time they face Columbus if they do come to the MLS Cup? Because now this is it. We're going to talk about that now. Make or break if this team wins the MLS Cup to live up to all the expectations. It's all on this now. You couldn't win the Leagues Cup, couldn't win the CONCACAF Cup before that. This is all that's left, the big one, the league.
This is it. They started the season saying we have our full roster now. We've put together a good team. It's not like last year. They were able to have a full preseason. Tata had been around and figured out what he wanted to do. They said we have 3 cups. We want to win on 3. We want to win 3 trophies. So far, they've been out and they've not played in the final or the semifinal or even the quarterfinal of either of these 2 tournaments so far. Now, that said, Tata was asked, now that you've lost 2 tournaments in the round of 16, does that mean that, is this season a failure if you don't win MLS Cup?
Right.
Is this season a failure if you don't win MLS Cup with all these stars that you have, with all these games that you've won? You're sitting on top of the table right now. You're, Supporters Shield leaders right now in good position with 9 games left in the regular season. Is anything less than the MLS Cup trophy a failure? Tata always bristles at that kind of talk, as most coaches do. He said, look, I don't view the game the same as you do. I don't view the team or the game the way you do. He said, yes, round of 16 in the first 2 tournaments. But in his estimation, the way they played last night, he said, is a completely different team and a much better team than they were when they lost to Monterrey back in March or whenever that was at the beginning of the season. He said, our team now is a much better team than we were then. We're playing much better. We've had much longer stretches of good runs, than they had last year. He doesn't even want to compare really what they were last year with what they are this year, or even what they were in March versus what they are now. He said, we are a very, very good team. We were playing on the road against the league defending champion, against the team that went to the CONCACAF Cup final, a very, very good team, and we were leading them on their home field 2-0 at the 67th minute. In his mind, that's how he views it. He says, our team is really good. And we were beating them at the 67th minute, and that's a great achievement. Of course, at the end of the day, wins and losses is what matters. And he understands that. He's been a coach for many decades. He knows that is wins and losses is what everybody looks at and what everybody judges teams by. But coaches do tend to look at things a little differently. They're out there every day. They like to see the progression of players. They see the improvement of players, the development of players, all of those things. And he likes to evaluate his team by taking all of that into account. However, from a fan's point of view, is the season a failure if they don't win the league? Now, first of all, Lionel Messi is supposed to be on this team. He's the captain of the team. He is presumably, or most people think, the best player in the world right now, the best player in the world, coming off a World Cup title, coming off a Copa America title. They don't have this player right now. They have not had him for 11 games in a row. They've been doing what they've been doing without him. When he comes back, it's a different team with him. We've said it all along. It's almost like we're forgetting that he's on the team. We had said before, it's a completely different team when Messi's on the field than when he's not. Well, now he hasn't been on the field for 11 games in a row. We've kind of gotten used to how they were without him, which is still a pretty good team. Still a pretty good team. And I'm not being an apologist here. I'm saying this still is a good team. They still have the best record in the league, even though Messi did not play for the entire month of June or July. So, that said, if he comes back, I would say that if Messi is on the team and they have their full roster for the last 9 games, and that's still to be seen because Messi has not stepped on the field yet for training. Also, even if he does come back at the end of August for the Cincinnati game, which is the next game, August 24, Argentina has two World Cup qualifiers. September 5th, September 10th, I believe, are the dates against Chile and a rematch with Colombia. If he wants to play in those games, he's not going to be around for Inter Miami. So, but if he is around and they do have their full team, I do think they have to win MLS Cup. For this season to really be considered a success, I think they have to win or at the very least make the final. Make the final of MLS Cup and play LAFC or whoever is the team out west. But I really think for the fans to be satisfied here, they're going to have to win that cup. Or I think at the very least make the final. What do you think?
I don't think the making the finals enough. I really don't. I think this has been built up to this incredible celestial level here with him, and we have a limited window with Messi. Let's be honest. We have a 2-ish year window, and that's assuming health wise he's okay to play in that long window in that 2-year span. If we don't know. Look how he's been out all this time with an injury right now. I mean, they're getting Messi in limited doses because of his durability. So because of that, and because of the level of hype both on and off the field from a corporate standpoint with Apple and everyone else, this has to happen. And in fact, to make it really live up to, you wish you had more years. You wish this was turning into a dynasty that they could win 4 or 5 MLS Cups to the level that they've hyped
Yeah.
this thing up. You only get 2.
Yeah, no, that
You're already going to blow
yeah,
one
they
chance
have
at
hyped
it.
it. Yeah, they have hyped it. I mean, that is the thing. When
Yeah.
you talk, when Jorge Mas comes on here and says this is not only the best team in MLS, this is going to be one of the top 10 teams in the world. I mean, I think you should probably wait until you do something before you start advertising like that. It is true that they have these stars and they have Lionel Messi and they are in first place. There's no question they're in first place. They're a very good team. Even without Messi, they are a good team. They're exciting. They're exciting to watch and they can score. They can score. I would say their vulnerability is still in back, is still their defense because yesterday, like we said, they were up 2-0. So they scored 2 goals. They scored 2 goals. And in most soccer matches, 2 goals is a pretty good number to have. You shouldn't have to score 3 to win a game. They scored 2 goals. They have been scoring. They've scored now, 58 goals, whatever. They've scored a lot of goals in the league. They lead the league by far in goal scoring. So they can score. With and without Messi, they can score. They have shown that Lionel Messi is not the only person who can score on this team. Luis Suarez has, I believe, 17 goals. You have Rojas. You have Diego Gomez. You have Campana, who's now the leading scorer, tied with Higuain for the club history. I mean, you've got Robert Taylor. You've got guys who can score on this team. That is not the problem. The problem is not scoring. The problem is giving up goals, in putting yourself in dangerous situations when you have a lead, giving up goals and becoming vulnerable and porous in the back. And it is the same story. And, to be honest, that was one of the issues even before Tata got here. Even with Phil Neville, there were problems and they were not the strongest defensive team. And this team clearly can score. They have a lot of offensive weapons. They have El Pistolero, and then they also have a lot of other weapons in their bag. They really do. The problem seems to be in back. I really think, I know this sounds, like this is not the solution. I'm not suggesting. I do think Ian Frey should have been played more in these past few games. Wygant is the guy that they brought in from Argentina, whatever. But I think that Ian Frey played great in those first few. I don't think he did. He played great in those first few games coming back from his injury. And he is a really, really good player who can play center back or he can play right back. They lost Yedlin. And I think that Ian Frey maybe would have if he had come in earlier, at least even if he's playing off the bench, I would have brought him in earlier last night. I feel like Wygant was a bit of a liability. And I would have maybe tried something different. I mean, I am not a coach. I never professed to be a coach. I know fans and media, question coaches a lot and whatever. And believe me, we ask questions when we have to ask of Tata, and I ask questions too. I do know that Tata Martino knows a lot more about coaching than I do, since he's coached at the international level for decades and I never have. But just from watching as a spectator, I think that Ian Frey has a lot of potential, as much potential or more as Wygant, to be honest. And I don't know why he wasn't played more. I know they have a lot of belief in these guys, young guys that they brought in from South America. They've paid big money for them, and they want to give them a chance to play. But I still think in the back is where they are still vulnerable, and especially against a team like that or a team like LAFC, when you're playing against the best teams, even if you score 2 goals, that may not be enough. That may not be enough.
Yeah, and that's what makes last night a shame, because Columbus is that good defensive team, and look how well they struck twice, and were dominating that match for 67 minutes or whatnot. So when you lose one like that, it's amazing too. Like in soccer, sometimes you see that where for some reason a 2-0 lead is a little harder to protect than a 1-0 lead. It's almost like the team has like lapses. I've seen it a bunch of
Two to
times.
one is the worst. In soccer, there's
Yeah,
nothing worse than 2-1.
yeah,
2-1, which is where it got like, okay, they scored one. So Inter Miami was up 2-0. They
the
score
swing.
one.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, they scored one, but we're still ahead. We're still ahead
Right.
2-1. It's the
You get
67th
complacent.
minute. We're
Yeah.
good. We're okay. Okay, let's start it up again. Let's go. And then meanwhile, that's what they're thinking. Meanwhile, in the brains of the other team, the Columbus Crew, in the brains of their fans had gotten quiet. That stadium
The
was pretty
volume.
quiet.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they score one to close the gap to one.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, their stadium got loud. It's like, oh my God, we're in this game. We can do this. We just need to equalize. It's only the 67th minute.
Yeah.
And Inter Miami's thinking, well, we're ahead 2-1 in the 67th minute. We dominated the whole first half. We know we have guys who can score. We got this.
Right.
That's the mentality of those two teams at that moment. And what happens? 2-1 is the worst, most dangerous lead in soccer.
They flip the switch.
Then flip the switch, flip the game upside down. The momentum changes. All of a sudden, 2 minutes later, Columbus ties. And now it's a completely different game.
Yep.
You went from 2-0 leading to all of a sudden it's a tie game on the road. Their fans are going insane. Their team is like, we are now in this. At the very least, we're going to PKs. We could win this. We're at home. Let's go. Let's do this. Inter Miami's now on its heels. And everything changed. Everything changed.
Yep. Everything changed. And we're talking about nemesis of this team being Columbus and whatnot. We're talking about what's next for Inter Miami. Oh, yeah, that other nemesis, that other one, the one that's been nipping at their heels, the one that passed them for a moment, then fell back again. Here comes Cincinnati, August 24th. That's the next time. They have a nice long break now. Not that they wanted one, but now they have a nice long break, and that match will be played on schedule August 24th, I'm assuming. Now here comes the other one.
Cincinnati's out, too. Yeah,
Cincinnati's
Cincinnati
out too.
also
That's
was
right.
eliminated.
So this game is on.
So they both have the same. They both have the same break. They're both going to have the same break. They lost 6-1 to that team, which is still just the most crazy score of the entire season. That game. Right. So now, yes, August 24th. In fact, last night, Yannick Bright was asked, what's next? What's your next? And he said Cincinnati. He said, right now, Cincinnati is on our brain. Right now, starting this minute. From last night while they were still there at the Columbus Crew lower.com field, which by the way is such a weird name for a stadium. But anyway,
it sounds demeaning.
Right when they were still lower.com field is the name of their stadium. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway while they were still there at lower.com field, Yannick Bright said Cincinnati is on our mind. That is all we're thinking about from now until August 24th. Cincinnati. That's what's next on the calendar. It's circled. They have to avenge that loss. It's going to be at home. And, before we go on to that, I want to discuss with you one thing. Leagues Cup in general. Yes, they're eliminated from Leagues Cup. Does that really matter in the grand scheme of their season? Do you think it really matters? Leagues Cup, as we mentioned last week, and again, I'm not saying this to be an apologist. I really want to discuss, does Leagues Cup matter in the grand scheme of things? It is a fabricated tournament. It had a weird setup where even being the defending champion, you had no benefit at all. They had no home field advantage being the defending champion of this. They've got the cup in their trophy case, and they don't have home field advantage or anything in this tournament. So does this tournament matter? Does it matter that they lost League Cup? There were empty seats, as you saw. Last year, I put in my story yesterday that last year, the round of 16 game for Inter Miami, the cheapest ticket was $460. That was the game at Dallas. Round of 16, the cheapest ticket was $460 last year, round of 16. Last night's game, $25 you could get in.
Oh my God.
So the interest in Leagues Cup this year is far lower than it was last year because Messi's not playing. Let's be honest. Does being eliminated from this cup, does it matter, and why or why not?
You can get tickets for a Marlins game for $25. I mean, what the heck? But no. But point being, okay. Yes, with their weird format and their non-rewarding from the year before and their funny logo that looks like a blurry hourglass, which I don't like at all, and all of that. If you were any other team, I'd say, that's fine. It'd be nice to win it. If not, no big deal. We're going back to MLS. But I go back to, again, this team has been hyped up to win anything in existence. And I feel like no matter how lack of prestige or you're still supposed to win it. And again,
you have Busquets even without Messi. You still have Sergio. You have Sergio Busquets. You have Jordi Alba.
Yeah.
You have Luis Suarez on your team. You have 2 Olympians on your team. You have these guys and Drake Callender, who was in the U.S. pool and all that. So you're looking at even that roster. It's still the most expensive roster, probably even without Messi. It's
correct.
That is a really, really, really good roster with 3 guys who played for FC Barcelona. 3 guys who played for FC Barcelona on this squad, and Tata Martino as your coach. So we're saying, even without Messi, even though the Leagues Cup is whatever it is, this team should be good enough to win this tournament, right? Or at least make the final. Or the semifinal, or how about the quarterfinal?
Definitely not round of 16. Now, I get the bracketing, and this is that's for starters. This is a matchup that we probably should have seen probably at least like in the final 4. That could have been the final.
That could have been the final
at least the final 4.
Final 4.
Right.
Right. You're playing the Columbus Crew in the round of 16, and you are a team that won the title last year in this tournament, but it's based on last year's regular season standings, and they were 14th in last year's regular season standings.
Which again, you have that weird anomaly you never see of how this team goes from rock bottom to all the way up just like that in one season. Like you don't see because of the transformation they had. So granted, that wouldn't typically be such a drastic swing of placement for a team. But anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, again, with everything that Jorge Mas was saying, all of the hype, the advertising for this team, like you said, not just Inter Miami's, relentless advertising of this team and hyping it up, but the league
globally,
Apple, everything, all of the sponsors, all of the commercials on TV, everything was about the pink and black. Everything was about Inter Miami. Inter Miami always starts the league. Inter Miami gets the most attention. And so they need to be doing better. They are leading the Supporter Shield race. So they are in first place right now in MLS. No one has a better record. So we can say that right now, as of August 14th, no one in the league has a better record in MLS games than this team. However, in the last year's MLS Cup, last year's playoffs, they didn't even make the playoffs. They finished 14th out of 15 teams in the East. This year, they are on top of the league, but they get bounced in the round of 16 of CONCACAF, and they get bounced in the round of 16, granted, by the Columbus Crew, which is a really tough round of 16 opponent. But that said, it is what it is, and they're out. They didn't make it past the round of 16. So yeah, a lot of pressure,
Yeah. Under
from this
pressure.
moment forward. From let's
Yep.
play that. We need to find that song. Pierre, we need to find that song by the start of the next game. When we talk about their next game, we got to talk about the pressure on this team.
Let's open with that. Yep. But
Let's open with that pressure. But yeah, starting with that Cincinnati game,
well, yeah.
if they start losing games or whatever, people are going to start. They already saw a couple, which is absurd. I'm sorry to say right now on this date, August 14th, it's time for Tata to go. I mean, that's really silly.
That's
But
soccer. That's soccer. They're always firing managers in soccer.
Firing managers, you lose one game to a rival, you're out, you're done, you're
Yeah.
done. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on them to win that MLS Cup. And I do think if they make a really good run and make it to the final and let's say play LAFC or something, and I think that could be okay. But to really be considered a big success and to satisfy the fans, they want to lift a cup, and the team does too. I don't think the team will be satisfied just making a final with that roster they have, especially if Messi's back. If Messi's back and they don't win a cup, that just stinks. That just stinks bad.
Got to get out of the East first with Columbus and Cincinnati there. And let me ask you about that. Speaking of Messi, do you have what's your inkling on? Could he be back by the 24th against Cincinnati, or do they go shorthanded against them again?
Well, the 24th is 10 days away.
True.
When we used to talk about the end of August, that sounded like, ooh, end of August, that end of the summer. Oh my goodness. Okay, well now we're at August 14th. That's 10 days away. I mean, basically they have 1 week off without a game, and then they're playing August 24th. The man has still not stepped on a field. Okay. He's still been just working out in the gym by himself. Tata had been saying before he hopes to have the full squad, including Messi, by the end of August. On the day before the game against Columbus, the wording, maybe it was just random, but the wording changed to, we don't have an estimate as to his return yet. So you know what I'm saying? That little wording change was a little tiny bit of a red flag, a pink flag. Okay. Maybe not a red flag, a yellow flag, a yellow caution flag.
Right. Not quite there yet.
Okay. He had mentioned the words end of August before. Now he said, well, he's working out in the gym. He's improving every day, but I don't have an estimate for his return. My question had been, when do you estimate that he would return to training on the field? And he said, I don't have an estimate for that. So having said that, let's assume that now that they lost this game, they're probably going to have a few days off. They're going to give the guys a few days off now of rest, and they'll probably start training again at the weekend. Okay. So they'll have a full week to train for Cincinnati. If he has not trained 1 minute on the field, what always happens is they don't go from the gym to training full squad. They go from the gym. The next step is they train alone with a trainer on the field, but just off to the side. They're not doing any contact drills. They're not doing anything with the squad. After his next step after leaving the gym is going to be out on the field by himself in a corner with a trainer, just doing little sprints, doing things with elastic bands, stuff like that. And then they work their way from that to returning to the squad. And then even when they return to the squad, they're limited before they're doing the full squad drills. So you think that evolution is going to happen in the span of 1 week? I don't.
So.
I'm starting to now think that August 24th may really not be possible. That may be a wish and a dream that may not come true, because I know he is like a superhero, However, he's human. And if he comes back, let's say that he starts training on the field with a trainer on Friday or Saturday. Usually they do that for about a week
Right.
before they go to the full squad. So I don't
He's
know
not
that
gonna be
he would
full
be
go.
ready.
No, he's
I
not
don't
gonna be full
think
go.
I don't
I
think he's
doubt
going
it.
to be full go. I think they may
No,
have to play Cincinnati without
without
him.
him.
I
Yep.
do think that. Yeah.
And right now, at least the cushion is more than one game's worth. It's more than 3 points. Not like last time where they were one game from swinging it. But at the same time, can't take the games down the road for granted, especially if he's not going to play down the stretch. How much is he not going to play down the stretch? When do they get it back? I'm with you. I think this is going to bleed into September, and then
I do
maybe early September is a more realistic window. And that's if, like you said, if he starts working out now, like in the next few days, to come
And
back.
if he
But
chooses not to play for Argentina, I have to
that
look. Do
too.
you have the schedule right in front of you? Who does Miami have any games between September 5th and 10th, or did they give a window? Did MLS give a window?
I have to check that. Let me do that while we talk about our next one. Remember, we also want to get to the point about the transfer window, which is coming up, and
Yes.
whether they make any other
Yes.
moves. But yeah, they do have a game against Chicago on August 31st coming up. So that's another one
Okay,
right
August
there.
3rd.
But
But what
then
about between September 5th and 10th? Do they have a
that's where we're
break?
going to get to. They don't play then. They don't play until they play Philadelphia, and that's on September 14th. So there is a nice little 2 week
Okay.
cushion
So
there.
they did give
But
a FIFA break. Okay,
right,
so
but
MLS game. Finally, hallelujah. Let's clap. Let's clap.
let's
MLS
assume
is giving a FIFA break
true.
for this window. Let's clap. Let's clap. Let's give it up.
Do
Woo,
a,
let's
do
give
a,
it
do
up,
a, one of those.
MLS. They're going to do what the rest of the world does for at
That
least that window.
said,
Okay.
that said, I keep trying to say. That said, let's hope Messi doesn't get hurt again playing for country.
Oh God.
I mean, I'm
Yes.
just saying that's how it happened.
Yeah.
So there's a risky window again.
Imagine if he goes, imagine if maybe let's say he plays somehow, he plays the 31st, the game against Chicago. Let's say he plays that game. He's better. August 31st, that's still the end of August. Tata kept saying end of August. August
Right,
31st is the end of August. Maybe
right.
that's the game he was
Maybe
thinking
that's
of,
the game.
not the 24th. So, okay, August 31st is the end of August. Let's say he plays in that game. And then, poof, let's say he goes to Argentina. OMG, they have 2 games against Chile, tough game, and
Yes.
then Colombia. Again, a rematch. You think
Rematch.
Colombia? Oh my, you think Colombia is going to want to beat Argentina in that game? Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he goes there and gets injured and tweaks this thing in one of those games, tweaks that ankle or that
Everybody
hamstring,
right now watching
and
this is
then
like,
and
no.
then Inter Miami is starting the final stretch for this cup that they now must win. That is going to be, he's going to put that, not by choice, but that team, his teammates will be under so much pressure, and he will feel so bad because he already, you can see in his face, he is not having fun watching these games at all. He's
Yeah.
not, he wants to be out there so badly. He feels bad sitting here at home watching that collapse last night,
Hmm.
knowing that he's not there, knowing he's not there to rally his troops. He's the general of this team.
That's right.
He's the general. They're the soldiers, even though they're high-priced soldiers, a lot of them. He's the captain of this team.
Right.
And he has not been there for them, on the field for 11 games in a row.
Yeah.
And it could be 12 coming up. So we'll see. Transfer window closes
Yeah.
on Friday.
Well, do
Tata
those
was asked
soldiers get
about
help? Do those soldiers get help? Do those soldiers get help before the transfer window?
with the transfer window. Well, Tata said, we asked him, Tata said, because he was asked about Cesar Montes, there's been some rumors that the Mexican national team center back, Cesar Montes, who plays in Spain and who played for Tata at the 2022 World Cup. He's a good player. Tata likes him a lot. He played for Tata in 2022 World Cup, Mexican player playing in Spain. There are rumors that Inter Miami is talking to him. We asked Tata about that. He was asked about it. And he said, look, I have nothing but great things to say about Cesar. He's a great player. I have nothing but great things to say about him on and off the field. But right now, the center back spot that we had open to replace Nico Freire was filled by David Martinez. We got a guy that we wanted to fill in that spot. If a player like Cesar Montes were to ever land on this team, of course he would be welcome because he's an amazing player. But he made it sound like they are not out there shopping for him, at least not right now. So he seemed to be suggesting that he said there's always a chance that something could come up before the window closes, but he didn't make it sound like we are looking for X or we are looking for Y the way he had before. Before he had said we're looking for a center back, and they got a center back. He has not been saying that and sort of poo-pooed that idea.
Interesting. I mean, considering the team still needs a little more defensive help from
I
the
think
looks
they
of
could
it.
use. I think they could use another good player in the back. I mean, you cannot have too many. You cannot have too many. And yes, they got David Martinez, but he goes out with a red card. So then you're back to where you started. You don't have David. Last night you did not have David Martinez.
Right.
Yes, you signed David Martinez from River Plate, but you didn't have him because he's out with a red card, or someone else gets injured, someone else gets a red card. You should have a backup who is not going to drop the level, who's going to be at the same level.
Yep.
And I do think they could still use some depth back there.
You can always use a plan C, plan D at all these, especially if you want to get this team to where it needs to get to. So I think they need all the help they can get.
I still think they could also use Ian Frey a little bit more. I'm on the Ian Frey train. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll be back next week to tell you a little bit more about this team as they prepare to get back on the field against Cincinnati. We'll dive in a little bit more on that matchup next week. But for all of you Inter Miami fans,
Messi update.
And a Messi update. Will he be? Has the
we'll know a lot
timetable
more.
Progressed?
Yeah.
Right.
By next Wednesday, if he's not on the field, we know.
Oh yeah, then you know for sure.
If he is on the field, then we'll have the big debates of is he ready? Is he ready? Is he ready? Is he going to play? Is he going to play? And then the ticket prices are going to be going like this, up, down.
Oh yeah.
Every day, everything that we proclaim is the minute he comes back to the field, the ticket prices will go up, and then Tata's going to have to say, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? And Tata's going to say it's going to be a game day decision. And we've been on that merry-go-round before.
Then he's going to give you the bueno. Let's review.
Bueno. No.
A ver. Yeah. For people who don't know Spanish, it's like let's review. Let's look at this.
Let's review. Yeah. That's what he loves to say when he doesn't have quite the answer. He likes to start. He sits for a second thoughtfully, and then he says, "A ver," and then he starts.
Let me see what I'm going to say here.
Let me collect my thoughts for a moment and come up with a good answer to this question. A ver. So that's the question. So we will leave this podcast with the question of, is this team going to win MLS Cup? Is it going to be enough to make the final? Or is this season a failure if they don't win MLS Cup? A ver.
Exactly. Collect your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody recover from this defeat and come back for next week's episode where we preview the rematch with Cincinnati and look beyond, look at Messi, where he's at by then, and everything else with Inter Miami. But again, we thank you for joining us as always, watching this on YouTube or MiamiHerald.com and listening to us, of course, on Spotify or any other podcatcher that broadcasts this, which there are plenty. But we'll see you next week. Again, for Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. Thanks, everybody.